Testing 1, 2, 3. Dun 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 dun. Hey everybody, welcome to TPIM SR Live. I'm your host. True power is mine. Today's date. What is this? May? Yeah, May 1st, 2020, the year of our Lord. I know it's been a minute, y'all, since I've been on. Been busy. Hopefully in the next live show, I'll show you all the stuff I've been doing. Cutting down huge trees, preparing for this winter. Hold on, let me take a sip of my beverage. I want to start off today by thanking God. I know some of you don't believe, some of you do. That's awesome. I want to thank the Most High for allowing me yet again the privilege and honor of hosting this particular broadcast. Also, it's been on my spirit to tell everybody, please do not stop social distancing if you want to survive this thing. I mean, if you're healthy and you got to get the antibodies, great. What's up, pimp? Brother Shay's in the house. Listen, y'all. There has to be massive turmoil coming this November for the elections to be stayed or possibly not even happen. So go out there and get your little jizz burger. Go on to the beach and catch the little virus. Go down to your local massage parlor and indulge in your perverted bullshit and get sick. Because you're doing exactly what the system wants you to do. Let's jump into the headline or into this little thing I got pulled up. I want to thank the confidential informant that sent me this today, which actually motivated me to actually get back in it. Take some time. Listen to this. It's very short, just 1 minute.
Like our allies, the United States responded to the perceived threats from Germany and Japan. In 1943, we began an offensive biological program with a modest research and development facility at Camp Detrick, which is now Fort Detrick, Maryland. By the end of the program, we had weaponized a total of 7 incapacitating or lethal human agents, including anthrax. In 1969, Richard Nixon renounced the use of biological weapons for the United States.
I have decided that the United States of America will renounce the use of any form of deadly biological weapons that either kill or incapacitate.
President Nixon visited Fort Detrick on the 25th of November, 1969. I remember that date quite well because following his announcement of taking munitions and beating him to plowsheds, we all lost our job. And that was a very traumatic experience. But following his presidential announcement on this date, the entire United States offensive program on biological warfare came to a close within 2 years. We destroyed all of our seed stocks. We destroyed all of our production material at Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And we completely got out of the biological warfare business.
And that would be a complete lie. A complete and utter lie. Hold on 1 second. I got a message to call Dr. Short. So hold on 1 second. He might not be there. Hold on 1 second. I am going to bring a familiar voice. Well, that was weird. Everything's all messed up over here. A lot of the programming is tied to the internet, to the computer. If it's not working just perfectly, we get these type of malfunctions. Hold on 1 second, y'all. 1 second. All right, cool. I had to shut that down. All right, hold on. Let's switch gears. Okay, that's neither here nor there. By August, this country's headed to $30 trillion in debt. All right, Black folks, you still have no reparations. Your future is on a tight wire right now. A lot of people are suggesting by the year 2030, you will not have any basically national wealth collectively. So what happens to us at that point? What happens when we don't have the means to feed ourselves and our babies? Well, we're just expected to quietly go off into the dark and cower and die? Or do you think we're going to fight back? Do you think?
Not very far from Edgewood, in historic Frederick, Maryland, are the biological warfare laboratories. Here, men and women of science are doing basically the same type of work as in other government, university, and industrial laboratories. A combination of medical and public health research. While I was at Fort Detrick, I was able to follow partway through an experiment to determine the effectiveness of an agent. Volunteers are important to the testing picture. For many years, information has been needed on the effect of a biological warfare attack on man, so that we can have a better understanding of how to defend ourselves against it. The volunteers were a picked group. They had received psychiatric interviews to determine their maturity and reliability, as well as mental outlook. Medical histories and laboratory checks on the volunteers had been extremely stringent. Any history of a chronic disease, any allergic reaction or nervous disorder was a cause for rejection. Volunteers were given the opportunity to drop out at any time. I was to watch the progress of the experiment from the control room. The volunteers had been positioned in cubicles on the outside of the test sphere, a hollow steel ball 40 feet in diameter, in which a cloud of biological warfare agent can be generated. Through a series of controllable valves and a face mask, it was possible to expose a person in each cubicle to a measured volume of biological aerosol from the sphere. I said before I was able to follow part way through the experiment, the final part. As was expected, the volunteers were temporarily incapacitated, but within a short time they were up and around, completely recovered. They had the satisfaction of having played an important part in obtaining information, which would immediately be given to the Public Health Service to bolster our defenses against disease. Research has led to many scientific findings beneficial to mankind, such as a perfected vaccine for controlling industrial anthrax, a usually fatal disease of cattle and sheep. Still another accomplishment, protective devices for the safe handling of disease-causing microorganisms and their harmful products. Just a few of the many byproducts of biological warfare research.
I'm doing this. I'm showing you guys the history of all this so that you understand that these plagues, the viruses, the bacterium, is nothing new. You're paying for them with your tax dollars. Fort Detrick isn't funded by charity, yeah. It's funded by you. And that information is being handed over to those who will use that knowledge against you. You see, folks, you don't pray a biological contaminant into existence. You know what you do? You use science, you use machinery, and you use technicians to bring forth that disease or illness. Folks, if it was not for many quote unquote first world biological programs, the world would not be as sick as it is today. But why, True? Why would you want to make people sick? Because you own stock in pharmaceutical companies that will bring forth a treatment, not a cure, but a treatment, which will generate you more money. So you get money on all sides at the top. You get money funding the program to make whatever weird virus or sickness you're trying to produce. And then you get money on the flip side after it's released into the public, the treatment for said sickness. That's the game. Now you guys are awake. Now you're hip. Do not stop social distancing. At least you will not be a part of the second wave to come. You know, when I talked to Jordan Maxwell, what an amazing man. In off camera or off show, the things we talk about, fascinating. And I'm trying to bring that information into this discussion because I want you to be aware of things to come. I want you to be prepared. I want you to survive. Survive this trial. Listen to this, folks.
When it comes to trimming your balls, use the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0.
It is the best trimmer in the market.
Oh, God. Nobody wants to hear that disgusting shit.
As a nation, we are justly the people who produce these where they live. In event of wars, may attempt to destroy or disable our people and our production by striking directly at the civilian population. Denied the products of our farms and factories, we could not wage war on any front. We can be attacked in spite of our excellent defenses. Attacks may be made in many ways, with bombs or with biological weapons. This might be one form of biological warfare.
That boy you saw shooting that juice right here, hold on one second.
Or with biological weapons.
That dude right there, that's Pruitt Igoe back in the 70s. They're shooting that juice up in the vent system and it's going through the whole facility. See, there's nothing new here, folks. These people have been infecting, contaminating for a long, long time. And it's not patriotic. These people are part of the culture of death. They're a part of that second ring of knowledge. They're not the dot, but they're in that second ring of goons and facilitators and enablers. Please hear this. Please understand.
This might be one form of biological warfare. But you may have heard.
There's a new poison. 1 ounce can kill all the people in the United States.
Germ warfare can wipe out an entire city.
Nothing could be further from the truth.
Biological warfare? What do they expect me to do about it? It's not my headache.
You're wrong. You had better find out the facts about biological warfare, or BW. It can be aimed at you in your home, or at work, at your food crops, your livestock. Biological weapons can be divided into three groups: germs, toxins, and plant growth regulators. Some germs cause cholera, others cause typhoid fever, plague, and such diseases. Toxins are special poisons produced by other germs. They do the harm in diseases like food poisoning and diphtheria. Special plant growth regulators can destroy food crops, just as weed killer can destroy weeds. The public health nurse and the many other members of our public health system have been fighting nature's biological attacks for years. We have proved that our health and medical systems check the spread of infectious diseases. Our livestock and crops are guarded by a nationwide network of federal, state, and local agencies and experts. Government regulations assure the purity of many food products. But BW attacks can be made in spite of our health safety systems. Aerosols containing disease germs could be used.
And those aerosols, and this is from 1952, yeah, 1952. Aerosols could be put onto agents' persons. Agents can go to open air food markets and spray said contaminant over the product, thus ensuring contamination of the local populations, hopefully secondary, third, and all the other generational infections from those people throughout the region, the nation, then the world. This is not new. It's new to you because you do not know, but it's not new. And who benefits from the COVID-19 outbreak? Who benefits from it? If you're a tyrannical, authoritative government, yeah, you benefit huge. Stay your ass at home, peasant. If you're a pharmaceutical manufacturer of PPE, protected personal equipment, yeah, this is a benefit for you. What happened last month and was this transpiring this month too should let you know. At first, your overseers were like, only the chosen need come out to work. The rest of you peasants stay at home. Now it's gotten so bad and they're scared about the stocks and how the movements and volatility is. Oh, now all you peasants need to get back to work. Some of you peasants don't have jobs to go back to. The little place that you was working at went under last month. I'm telling you, folks, it's about to get dark and gloomy. Let's continue.
These aerosols could be spread over large areas. Submarines could release aerosols near coastal cities. Specially designed germ-carrying bombs could be dropped. Enemy agents could contaminate the city water supply. How can we protect ourselves from BW attacks? Keep yourself and your family clean. Don't help germs by making things easy for them. Germs have trouble living in clean places. Enroll in a Red Cross home nursing course. Then if sickness does come to you, you'll know what to do. Always report sickness promptly.
And doctor, Mary's temperature is over 100.
This is where we're going to segue back to reparations. Hold on, let me go back to old girl here. If you're economically non-viable and you don't have a telephone, how are you going to report that sickness to the doctor? You're economically non-viable, you don't have running water, how are you going to keep your family clean? You're economically non-viable and you don't even have a home, electricity, and all the bells and whistles going with that. How are you going to maintain the biological threat? Yes. Welcome to the show, Sister Love. Welcome. Here is the problem. Because many of you brothers and sisters were not economically viable before the pandemic, you're certainly not going to be economically viable during and perhaps after. And as the face of this disease is being shined on the face of the melanated, you had better understand quarantine is going to apply to you and not the rest. Just another reason to discriminate you against coming into a place, trying to do business, trying to come up. Just another, oh, you're sick. Get the hell out of here. Filthy cretin. Let's continue.
Over 100.
Good morning. Here's the news. Civil Defense Headquarters announced today that the sharp increase in the number of cases of illness during the last few days have led authorities to suspect that a biological warfare attack may have taken place. As yet, the cause of this outbreak has not been identified. Civil Defense health authorities recommend that you should take the following precautions.
If such an announcement is made in your city, don't give way to fear. Just remember that scientists would already be working to control the outbreak.
And also equally be aware that scientists are the ones who created the outbreak. You got to understand, you don't have a biological attack by hopes and prayers. You have a biological attack by scientific method and research and development. Like I told you all before, I will say it again. You are marked for death. You are nothing but cattle, sheep, pig, meant to be slaughtered on the altar of capitalism, baby. You have no purpose. You have no economic tangibility. You are not the chosen. In this respect. Now, in my respect, you're fucking humanity. You are the sons and daughters of the future. Meant to get us off this mudball, this filthy, dirty, shit-laden planet and into the cosmos, ascend to the heights of our very being. I'm going to tell you something, and a lot of you aren't going to like it. As above, also below. To show you that something is amiss, something is awry. If I tell you, you all had chickens, every last one of you had chickens, what would you do with the chickens? You would build a chicken coop to pen them in. Now, inside the chicken coop, that is quite literally the chicken's world. The only reason why you have these chickens confined in this infinite universe, as far as the chicken's concerned, the planet Earth will be an infinite universe of resources potentially, is because you have these chickens slated for consumption, slated for nourishment. As above, so too below. The reason why humanity is locked on this planet, we may be indeed. And I pray this is not the truth, but more than likely it is. Food for a higher form of life. They feed on our life essence. They feed on us. That's why we're stuck on Earth, chicken coop Earth. You know, like once again, when you're in the chicken coop, you can see chickens brutalizing each other, pecking each other to death, literally consuming each other. And you see that the same thing here on Earth. I'm saying, chickens, let's stop being chickens. Let's stop being nourishment for those who seek to devour our souls and our life force. Let's unite and fight these fucks and win. Do not blow your cover, brothers and sisters. And this was what will unite us. Black, white, yellow, red, it does not matter. Brown. Your life force is equally consumed. Equally obliterated. Your potentiality removed, and your so-called fate or destiny injected. We can change this. Let's continue. That will be a topic for another show.
Probably some of the people in your neighborhood would become sick. Reports of the disease would start pouring into health and medical authorities. number and location of cases would be plotted on a map of the area. Scientists would go to work immediately to identify the cause of the disease. Meanwhile, the outbreak would take on a definite pattern. There are important things you can do in your home if you are told a biological warfare attack has taken place. Be careful what you eat and drink. Canned and bottled goods are safe, but scrub them before opening. Packaged foods in cupboards and refrigerators are probably not contaminated. Boil or cook all exposed food before eating. Water used for drinking or washing after an attack must be boiled. Wash all contaminated garments thoroughly to remove germs or toxins. If your doctor recommends sending a member of your family to the hospital, cooperate. Local health and medical authorities would distribute instructions so that the outbreak of the disease could be controlled. Follow instructions closely. If you are called upon for a blood sample, don't hesitate. Blood samples would be extremely important in helping the scientists identify the germs or poisons. Authorities would identify the cause of the disease as soon as possible. The recovery of those already sick would be speeded up with the use of modern drugs. Mass inoculations might be necessary to keep the disease from spreading. This would require the cooperation of everyone. Remember,
did you just hear that? Cooperation. The chip is coming, y'all. The chip is coming. I want you to be aware of this. I'm telling you right now today. 5/1/2020. The chip is coming. Money is on its way out. Cryptocurrency is booming. Credit cards, debit cards, electronic transactions on the rise. No one wants to touch your dirty peasant tender no more. You know, think about it. All those dollars that were in the cracks of strippers and up their snatch. And they take it and then they go buy dollar candy for their children. And then that clerk takes it down to the bank. And then when you go down to the bank, you get that money out that still has her booty juice, her vag juice on it, and whatever nasty diseases and germs were on the guy's fingers when he put it in her orifice. Or what about the drug dealer? You know, that lets the little drug addict come in who's been rubbing their anal pus sores as they're counting out the dollars. Nobody wants to touch that no more, y'all. That's going bye-bye. Bye-bye, money. Bye-bye, legal tender. Bye-bye. And all you fucks out there thinking that I'm bullshit, you're going to be sadly mistaken. When you go bebopping down to your store, oh, I want to buy this, sir. Do you have electronic means of payment? No, sir. Do you have a RFD chip in your hand or head? No, sir. Then get the fuck out. In fact, hold on. Let me call the law. Hello? We got a non-chipper here trying to spread the disease. It's all over. Have they not shown you once the disease, all bets are off. Rules can be amended. Things can be pushed aside. We can make this happen, except for your reparation. Can't make that happen, y'all. Cannot let that happen. And once again, this is for all the non-initiated, the uninitiated. When I talk about reparations for black folks, I am not talking about the destruction of white society at all. As you should all be very well. Most black folks, once they become economically viable, they're going to run to you and give you your money. So if you're a poor white person, it's because you don't have your black customers who are economically viable to put money into your fucking coffers. Once you wake up and see, hey, let's make these people economically viable. Hey, I'm cool with these people. Hey, they're going to put fucking food on my table. Now black people can become economically viable and do what they need to do to survive. This is what I'm talking about. Without economic viability, not only are you in danger of death, you're almost guaranteed it now. Let's continue.
Remember, VW attacks food crops, livestock, and people. Our health and medical systems are the foundations of our defense against biological warfare. Our food supply is guarded by a nationwide network of federal, state, and local agencies and experts. If we are attacked with biological warfare, health and medical authorities will tell you what to do so that the disease could be brought under control. Cooperate with the authorities. Above all, don't listen to scare talk, rumors, or myths. Get a copy of this official booklet at the first opportunity. Read it and remember it. Do your part, and we can successfully combat biological warfare.
Do your part, and we can combat biological warfare. Isn't that the truth? Don't listen to that scared talk. And you know farmers are destroying crops because there's no viable market. Well, it's not that there's no viable market. There's no viable distribution network. See, everyone keeps pointing the fingers at the industrial side, the manufacturing side, but the distribution side is getting hammered. No one's talking about the sick truckers. Nope. And don't forget, to drive a truck, it requires you to have a CDL license, which requires you to be trained, which requires you to be something more than the average peasant move off the street. The supply chain is being broken. The just-in-time delivery method is showing its vulnerability, but no one's hearing it. Nope, keep on just believing everything's okay. You're in heaven because you got a damn cheeseburger in your hand. My friends, humanity, one of the greatest races in the whole universe, is quite literally being de-evolved right before our eyes. We who should be ferrying ourselves through the stars are quite literally de-evolving. So sad. So very, quite literally sad. Now, let's listen to this PBS. This is public broadcast system. It should be copyright free. YouTube. This is for educational purposes. I am here to educate the masses. Oh, if you haven't drank, now I say drink it. Listen to this, y'all. In remembrance of those who have already died. In remembrance of 60,000
Most
citizens.
people and most businesses can shoot.
Oh, shut up, you twat.
Thanks to CuriosityStream for supporting PBS Digital Studios. The earth never shook beneath their feet. We've never found their remains in the rocks. And by some standards, they're not even alive. They're just bits of protein and genetic information that might give you a sniffle for a couple of days, or worse. But they're also proof that even the very smallest things can have an outsized impact on the history of life. I'm talking, of course, about those tiny genetic burglars that you have been asking about for so long. Viruses. There's no fossil record of viruses in the conventional sense. They're just too small and fragile to be preserved in rock. But there are fossils of viruses of sorts preserved in the DNA of the host that they've infected, including you. And yeah, I mean, me too, to some extent, I guess. But this molecular fossil trail can help us understand where viruses came from and how they evolved with the rest of us. And it can even help us tackle the biggest question of all. Are viruses alive? The key to the virus's success is their simplicity. In general, they consist of a bit of genetic information, either DNA or RNA, wrapped in a capsule of protein. Many are small, of course, on the order of tens of nanometers, while others are surprisingly big. But they all rely on infecting some sort of host to reproduce and survive. We think that viruses have been around as long as life itself, partly because they can infect all forms of life: bacteria, archaea, eukaryotes. And because they're so simple, some scientists think that they evolved alongside or even before the earliest cells. But without real fossils, how can we know the history of viruses? Enter the science of paleovirology. This is a young field within paleontology because it's built on another emerging field, genomics. In order to look for traces of ancient viruses, experts have to study the genomes of their hosts. It makes sense when you think about how viruses actually work. Viruses have to infect a host cell to access the machinery that it uses to replicate its DNA, and then hijack that machinery in order to reproduce, which is like, when I say it out loud, such a scumbag move. The host cell is forced to manufacture new viruses, which then leave and look for new hosts to infect. Except the viruses and the host don't always exactly part ways entirely. Sometimes the genome of the virus can become integrated into the DNA of the host. And as long as it doesn't cause a mutation that damages the host cell, that bit of viral information may stay there indefinitely. And if this happens in a cell that forms sperm or eggs, then the viral genome can actually be inherited, passed on to the host's offspring with the rest of its genome. So in this way, the viral genome becomes a sort of molecular fossil. And those ancient bits of viral information can also shed light on how old viruses are. That's because ordinarily viruses change really quickly. That's why you have to get a new flu shot every year. A virus mutates so fast that after a few hundred years, not much of the original genome may be left. However, if that DNA is integrated into its host, then it can only mutate as fast as the host does. And since hosts reproduce more slowly than viruses do, their mutation rate is slower too. All this means that the viral gene will be preserved, though not perfectly, for way, way longer than a virus that's just floating around out there on its own. Now, scientists can use this to help figure out the age of virus fossils. And they do it the same way they study the evolution of other genes, by lining up comparable sequences from different organisms and comparing them. If a sequence of viral DNA is found in two different animals, then they probably both got it from a common ancestor. And that means the virus has to be at least as old as that ancestor. So for example, circoviruses are a group of viruses that are known to cause stomach problems in dogs. And scientists once thought that circoviruses had been around for less than 500 years. But traces of these viruses have been found in the genomes of dogs and also cats and even pandas. So the viruses must date back to before those mammals last shared a common ancestor, which might be as much as 68 million years ago in the late Cretaceous period. So what's the oldest evidence of viruses? Well, one study in 2011 looked at the history of brachyviruses, which specifically infect wasps. And it found evidence to suggest that the group these viruses belong to could be as old as insects themselves, dating back to the Carboniferous period, 310 million years ago. But other researchers brought the history of viruses even closer to home. Research in 2009.
I'm going to tell you something that probably shouldn't be telling you guys, but fuck it. Talking to a confidential informant. Reason why I'm bringing this particular video up. You know how we have secret black ops programs, you know, that dabbles with magic, high technology, blah, blah, blah. Shit that we won't even fucking see till 30, 40 years from now. Apparently, the civilization that was here before mankind showed up went through the same deal. And viruses are nothing more than their black ops programs, the epitome of their technological achievement. They ascended from the physical plane of bodies into the viral bacterial planes of just cells. Basically, all viruses are ancient life forms trying desperately to attain immortality and living vicariously through those of us in the presence, manifesting themselves in the form of sickness and disease, debilitating us because they are not of us. And the only reason why they became what they became, because they feared us. They knew that we were coming. Now we're here. Now we are here. Let's not let the disease of hate, envy, and greed destroy us. We know what is being played on us. We know which court we are in. We know the game that is before us. Let's win. But we only win through knowledge and understanding. We cannot win through ignorance and hope. Let's continue.
Dated a gene found in mammals called CGIN1 to the early days of mammal evolution between 125 and 180 million years ago. And that gene is thought to have originally come from a virus because parts of it resemble a type of RNA virus called a retrovirus. And guess what? You're a mammal. So some retrovirus infected a sperm or egg cell in one of our mammal ancestors millions of years ago, and now a gene derived from it is in you. And again, yeah, probably me too. Scientists don't think this gene has much of a function, but they do think it's just one of many examples of how viruses have left their mark on our own DNA. In fact, it's been estimated that 8
Scientists are wrong. These genes that so-called do not have a function. The function is for they allow the spiritual realm to basically use it as a camera and a microphone to gain information. It's sort of like a hidden subroutine in an app that you download. Say you download Happy Time app. It's a chat, FaceTime, and update type app. But down in the coding, you don't even see it. It's a back door sending information to somewhere. That's what these so-called genes that they don't understand. That's their function. They're sending information to an entity to observe our behavior. Let's continue.
8% of the human genome includes sequences that originally came from viruses. So paleovirology has helped us date the evolution of viruses back hundreds of millions of years. But that doesn't bring us much closer to when we think viruses first originated billions of years ago. Now, there are a few different models for where viruses came from, and they're still hotly debated by scientists, so just be prepared if you pick a side. One model is known as the virus first model, and it holds that since viruses are so much simpler than cellular life, they must have evolved first. This would mean that viruses are older than the oldest single-celled organisms. They'd be relics of a time when all life was made up of simple, self-replicating units, probably made of RNA, which preyed on more complex life forms as they evolved. But there's also what's known as the escape hypothesis. This model suggests that viruses evolved after cells did, from within their own genes. You see, our genomes contain pieces that can actually copy and paste themselves from one part of our DNA to another. So some experts think that if one of those pieces became able to make itself a nice coat of protein, it could easily escape the cell and become a virus. The third model hinges on the discovery of so-called giant viruses. The first one discovered in 2000.
This is why there's so many people saying that we're living in a simulation, sort of like the Matrix. You heard what the man just said. These viruses create a protein around it. How can you create something if you're not conscious and aware of what you need to create? These viruses, these bacterium, are biological monitoring machines. They spy on us. That's what they do. Please understand, being clean is a part about fighting our common enemy, our common cause and purpose, the enemy of humanity, the enemy of all human life, the enemy of all human expression of existence. That's what we should be focusing and fighting instead of each other. Trust me, there's enough room in the universe for everybody to have their so-called paradise planet. Paradise society. Even on this earth, there's enough room for that. But the reason why that cannot be allowed to happen is because you are chickens in the coop. You are to be devoured and consumed by beings who are so-called ascended higher than you. Let not that be your fate. Listen, those who have ears, please hear.
3 was named mimivirus, short for mimicking microbe, and these things are huge by virus standards. They're about 750 nanometers across. That's bigger than some bacteria. Now, fortunately, they only infect amoebas, so you don't have to worry about them, at least yet. Now, mimiviruses have way more genes than normal viruses do, including some genes that can be used to make protein, which viruses are not supposed to be able to do. But mimiviruses still depend on their host to reproduce. So what are all those extra genes doing in there? Some scientists think those genes are leftovers from a time when some groups of viruses were bigger.
There's nothing in reality that's in the present that is a leftover. Everything that is in the present has a function. Even you, my friend. Even you. You call it your fate, your destiny. You call it finding your soulmate. It's a purpose. There is nothing that is in existence, nothing that is without purpose. It might be without your understanding of the purpose, but it itself has purpose for it exists. Let's continue.
More complex and more like cellular life. So this model suggests that viruses were once free living and then developed a symbiotic relationship with another organism. And then over time, that relationship became more parasitic, which sometimes happens. The more dependent they became on their host to replicate, the more complexity the viruses lost, or at least so the thinking goes. But recent research has cast some doubt on this idea, known as the regressive model, at least where mimivirus is concerned. Some scientists argue that the extra genes in mimivirus are just random leftovers that it picked up from its hosts over the eons. Now, these different models all put different spins on the big question, are viruses alive? Now, I said at the beginning that paleovirology can help us tackle this question, and it can. But the answer depends a lot on who you ask. Many scientists are content to just put viruses in a sort of gray area of semi-living things. But others are determined to figure out whether they have a place on the tree of life, and if so, where? To answer the question of whether viruses are alive, we need to agree on the definition of life. It's generally agreed that life can reproduce, make energy for itself, maintain a stable environment within its cells, and it can evolve, among other things. So viruses can reproduce, but not on their own. And we've already talked about how viruses can evolve, but they have no way to produce energy, and they can't control their internal environments. And that's why they occupy such a gray area. Because the answer...
Hold on. Did you hear what he said? Let's just go back 1 second. Where we're at. Let's go back here. Listen to what he said.
No way to produce energy, and they can't control their internal environments. And that's why they occupy such a gray area. Because the answer to some questions...
Hold on.
On their own. And we've already talked about how viruses can evolve, but they have no way to produce energy, and they can't control their internal environments. And that's why they occupy such a gray area. Because the answer to some questions is yes, and others, no.
Oh my God.
So viruses can reproduce, but not on their own. And we've already in the definition of life.
Okay, like you said, virus can reproduce, but not on their own. That's man and woman. We can reproduce, but not on our own. We need each other. As above, so too below. You know how people say that humanity is a virus on Mother Earth. That's why we need to die. They're using this concept that I'm talking about, but against us. We have to ascend. We have to leave Earth. Earth is not our birthplace anyways. That's a whole nother topic. We'll get into it later. The only reason why we're here on this outer arm of the Milky Way is because our forebears tried to escape from the true empire. Marooned on this little planet, forced to insert our RNA, DNA into things to make this planet lush. That's why we always have these mythos about the ancient humans being like technologically more advanced. Atlantis, many of you Greeks understand about that, but there's another civilization in Kemet that I'm not going to speak on. We either need to reconcile with each other and move forward, or like any other virus or bacterium, face total annihilation. Let's continue. We'll wrap this up and then we'll end the broadcast, but hopefully you're finding some answers.
Life. It's generally agreed that life can reproduce, make energy for itself, maintain a stable environment within its cells, and it can evolve, among other things. So viruses can reproduce, but not on their own. And we've already talked about how viruses can evolve, but they have no way to produce energy, and they can't control their internal environments. And that's why they occupy such a gray area. Because the answer to some questions is yes, and others, no. Now, it has been suggested that while viruses don't occupy their own branch of the tree of life, they might be thought of as like vines that wrap around it, which is an elegant image, if also maybe a little creepy one. But either way, viruses are here. They're in our DNA. They make us sick, sometimes very badly. So there's no denying that they have a place in the greater picture of what life on Earth is like, for good or for ill. Thanks for joining me today, and you're welcome for not making a joke about going viral or whatever. And thanks also to CuriosityStream for continuing.
Yeah. for continuing to pollute the minds of the average man and woman so that they don't understand what's really in play. You, my friend, who can hear me right now, except for those who can hear me in the very, very far future, you are on a court. You're playing quite literally against the culture of death, who has to get best strikers, the best defense, and the best coaching and equipment. And you literally have what was given to you by your forebears, whatever that may be. You have one or two choices. One, play the game, get the information you need to know to win. Or two, play the game in ignorance, hopes and prayers, and get annihilated. That's your choice. You die from lack of knowledge. You die from lack of understanding. You die because things that you can generate and produce yourself, you knowingly and consent and give to another entity to provide for you. That's your doom. That's your death. This will conclude TPIM SR Live for today. I hope I've given you something to think about. Hopefully, maybe even open up your eyes a little bit. But at any rate, live your life with integrity, without hate, envy, or greed. And as always, brothers and sisters, please, 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 let's try to be kinder to each other. Peace and power. Unity and victory. Dignity and respect. Liberation. I'm out.